So thanks for having us, James.
Pleasure.
We're a number of weeks into installing at 1Rebel, and we thought it would be great to check in to see how things are going. And the first question I've got for you is, what are the biggest business benefits that you've seen from implementing ice baths, in your instance with sauna as well?
I think from our perspective, 1Rebel has been known for sort of its core disciplines of high intensity boutique training in a fun, inclusive environment. As the business scales and as we try and reach a broader market, it's important for us that we're also seen as premiumizing the business. You know, we do a contrast sort of zone here, so it's sauna and your cold plunges. And I think that's really in keeping now with what people want. You know, they're getting the adversity of a high intensity exercise, and whilst typically spas would be a bit more relaxing place, the cold plunge adds that sense of adversity in a luxurious environment.
So you guys run a number of programs, classes, and that I think is one of the things that makes you guys pretty distinct.
Yeah.
From that perspective, how do you program the plunge? Because this is a key problem I think people have with ice baths is it a piece of kit that I plonk in the corner and people will figure that out? Or are they baked in some way? How have you kind of overcome
I think
that
it has to be baked into the experience. So one of the things that we took into account, if you look at the sauna and the plunge, was a ratio of 1 to 3. So 3 people in the sauna at any point with 1 person in the plunge. Okay. Getting the temperature therefore right so that people aren't necessarily spending a huge amount of time but aren't so shocked that they jump out and never want to do it again. Yeah. We feel that the number is 6 degrees. That's to be debated, but that will give people anything from 30 seconds to 3 minutes, let's say, in the plunge, whilst they might spend 15 to 20 minutes in a sauna. So in a 45-minute session, I'd expect 2 rotations at a minimum for people to get the full experience.
What kind of risks and discussions did you have internally on setting dosage of time and temperature?
Yeah, well, we wanted to make sure that everybody could get a go.
Yeah.
We've also tried to remove the sort of machismo effect of some person saying, well, I want to stay here for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They'll know that there'll be other people waiting for their turn. And I think 6 degrees sets it at the right amount so that you're not putting people off, but people are, gonna want to maybe leave after a certain amount of time.
Is there a particular lens that you guys have on recovery here? So, there's a lot of science on cold water immersion, anti-inflammatory, whatever. What's your take of how you've approached that here?
Yeah, look, I think the science is pretty clear, but it's also sometimes a lot to sell. We're also not the authority on science. We don't try and pretend to be. I think most of our customers are listening to the Andrew Huberman podcast. They are getting this information for themselves.
Well educated.
Which is why we're seeing the take up be so strong. I think the best way to kind of package this is a mental health benefit. There's I have one of your barrels at home. I do it every day, and that sort of mantra of starting off your day doing something difficult in order to set yourself up for the rest of the day. If you just sold that and just believe that, it's still a worthwhile thing to do. So I think our classes are high intensity. They're meant to be hard. You're meant to get results from them. But this is another way, by not necessarily stressing the body, running all the time or doing weights all the time, that you can get that same mental health benefit that you can do from a class by taking on something difficult, but still in a premium, luxurious environment. And I just encourage anyone to tell me, do you feel better or worse after a cold plunge? I think 100% of the time I feel better.
This is your first installation across, we're hoping a number of venues in your estate, which is amazing. What are the lessons learned that you would share, certainly back to me, that we need to think about next time to support you and anyone else thinking about installing ice baths in a commercial environment?
These are, in my mind, here to stay. Anyone who's not doing it now, it took us basically a year to almost get it from conception to execution, because it's worth really thinking through the customer experience. I think in terms of getting up and running, building a bit more time for the local teams to really understand the implications and the operational effort it takes. These are, products which are not cheap, but also require the right attention, because it's like once you've got a car, you want to maintain it well. And so there are various challenges that surround that. Also the M&E, the space you've got. But overall, we feel that we were able to overcome those relatively quickly. We have 10 clubs right now. We're launching it in our second club next week. And our hope is by this time next year, it will be within 50% of the estate.
Single biggest piece of advice you would, if you could pass it back to yourself before starting, certainly the contrast idea, is there a particular stand-up thing that you would
I probably would say the drainage is something that stands out, because people come out the bath and water goes on the floor. And when you're trying to do a premium sort of offering, nobody really likes to see stagnant water. And we've got drainage there, and it's perfectly manageable. But I think the challenge when we try and do more than one bath is that we're going to have wet floors that we need to consider. So I would say be bolder with the amount of drainage, maybe, and factor that into your turnover times to make sure it's a little bit more presentable, because I think that's just something that in a pool environment, wet floors are kind of a given. In a more spa environment, it's less tolerable to the consumer, maybe.
That is really insightful. Yeah, great. Okay, perfect.
No, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks a lot for your
time.
time.
Thank you.